Hey guys, I am currently reading through the book of Matthew and I got to chapter 7 today. And first of all, chapter 7 is like packed with just so many good teachings that Jesus is giving to the people listening to him on his sermon, in his Sermon on the Mount. And so it's chock full of a lot of stuff. But the part that every time I revisit this passage that always gets me is the narrow way. I'm reading it from the New King James Version for y'all's information. Enter by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many who go by it. Because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are very few who find it. That is a mixture of terrifying, but also encouraging, and it gives me a lot of peace. It's a very interesting two verses, verses 13 and 14. I really just wanted to turn the camera on and just like kind of dissect my thoughts when I was reading through this again. The narrow gate, the gate which leads to our eternity, our eternal peace, if we believe that Jesus is our Savior, it's narrow. It's narrow, which is crazy, and there are very few who find it. I think there are so many things in the world that seem easy to understand or like we have it all figured out because it's the way we see it in a worldly sense. But I think that is largely on the broad way that he talks about, this way that leads to destruction, because there are many who go by it. I think something that always comes to mind when I read this is it's a lot of self-reflection. It's a lot of internal finding that you have to do between you and God and your relationship with Jesus. It's understanding like really what choices you're making and the things you're doing in your life. Like, are you doing these things which seem easy and seem like they're the right thing to do, but really it's just the simple thing to do? Or are you doing those things which God is calling you to do? And I'm constantly trying to understand that within myself and like self-evaluate that. And it's so interesting. This is definitely two of those verses where in the Bible where there's always constant things to be unpacking within it. I mean, the idea is quite simple, right? Like it's two verses that go over the narrow way. Like it's not very complicated, I guess. Jesus makes it very simple, but just really like taking it apart and trying to understand ourselves and whether or not we're following that correct path. I think that's where it gets kind of crazy and like trying to really understand what we're doing. And so I'll be kind of meditating within these words for a while, but I just wanted to kind of spitball that with y'all, just kind of go through that. Matthew has been a very fun read and I'm really taking my time. And this time I'm really enjoying it. And the narrow way was one of those things I really enjoyed.